Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Junior Pac-Man for the Atari 2600, and I'm playing this game off of a cartridge on a Retron 77. I'm pretty sure this means I now have all the Pac-Man games available for the Atari 2600. There were plenty of clones, just Pac-Man-like games, but in terms of actual Pac-Man brands, there was Pac-Man, there was Ms. Pac-Man, and then there was Junior Pac-Man. I have to say that in terms of game quality, they have definitely progressed through to Junior Pac-Man. I know the first Pac-Man game for the Atari 2600 was considered to be one of the worst games for this system, and honestly, it was probably one of the worst ports available for Pac-Man in general. Still, I love that game. I played it a lot when I was younger. But eventually they released Ms. Pac-Man, which was nicer, and then they went on to release Junior Pac-Man, which is this game here. It was developed by Bally Midway for the arcade, and that was back in 1983. Now, apparently this arcade version of Junior Pac-Man, it actually wasn't an authorized Pac-Man game, and it contributed to apparently Bally Midway parting with Namco. Namco was the creator of the original Pac-Man game. This version for the 2600 came out in 1986 by Atari. We're talking standard Pac-Man rules here. You race around the maze eating pellets, but there are some added mechanics here that help make this one better. You have 3 lives, and if you get 15,000 points, you earn a bonus life. Basically, you just play for as long as possible to get as many points as you can. Now, while you're running around the maze, you're being chased by colored ghosts. Binky, Pinky, Inky, and Tim. Like other Pac-Man games, there are power pellets in the maze. If you eat a power pellet for a short period of time, the ghosts start running away from you. During this period, of course, you can eat the ghosts for extra points. In this one, every now and again, a toy will appear in the maze, like a bicycle, and it's going to move around. Basically, the maze is considered a playground. Every dot that the toy touches, it will turn that dot into a slightly bigger dot. Now that dot is worth more points. If the toy manages to make its way to a power pellet, it will destroy that pellet. Now, like all Pac-Man games, or even clones, there's certainly a best path pattern to follow to maximize your efforts in the maze. I have no idea what that pattern is. This map is bigger than the Pac-Man game, it's bigger than the Ms. Pac-Man maze, and this one scrolls. The arcade version of the game has a maze that scrolls horizontally. Here, the maze scrolls vertically if you approach the top or the bottom. It's an interesting effect, and I was not expecting it. It just gives you a naturally larger maze, and it kind of makes it a little harder to navigate. There are more parts of the maze to worry about here, and you can't always see the ghosts. And also, the power pellets are in different locations than in prior Pac-Man games. The power pellets are near the corners of the maze, but they're not in the corners of the maze. There are also 2 that usually show up in the middle. One is sort of closer to the top center, and one is closer to the bottom center. I have to say it's really nice they spent the time with Junior Pac-Man to make sure that he was more round than square. I'm not expecting perfect circles for the Atari 2600 by any means, but the first Pac-Man game did not do very good in this area at all. So Junior Pac-Man, what separates him is he's got this little beanie on his head, and that's what they use to define him, like Ms. Pac-Man has her bow. It's kind of great that all they needed to do back then to create variety was to make a tiny little addition to what was basically just a circle. Also, it's pretty neat here that if you get eaten by a ghost, you disappear, but your beanie falls to the ground. I don't know, I think it's a unique, nice little touch. This one feels different than the other Pac-Man games. It's definitely faster, and if you check the manual online, you'll learn all these little bits and pieces that I wasn't really aware of just by playing the game. I guess when you eat a pellet, you slow down. And if you eat a pellet that was touched by the toy and became a bigger pellet, you slow down even more, and that wasn't something that I noticed initially when I started playing the game. But it's definitely what happens. So you can be racing around, but if suddenly you're eating a bigger pellet, it's going to change your cadence moving around the map. It's pretty interesting. On the first level I played, I thought it felt harder than the other Pac-Man games, and I'm wondering if it's because of the speed. Yes, you can set the game to easy and have fewer ghosts. That is certainly an easier way to play, but with standard game, with 3 ghosts floating around the screen, it seems like it's a harder game. Also, this one makes me realize that the controller that came with the Retron 77, it's maybe a little less responsive than a core Atari 2600 controller. I don't know, The joystick loosens a little bit, and it feels a little splashy when I'm playing this game. It just makes me feel like I don't have the best control of Junior Pac-Man running across the screen. Still, although I do have some trouble controlling it, it's definitely better than the original Pac-Man for this system, that's for sure. I do like how it's faster, and the power pellets are in slightly different areas, and the map is different. I mean, I appreciate that. Things are just, they're not so stable like the earlier version. Also, there are no teleport tunnels in this game, so you have no place to escape at random. In prior games, you could let yourself get chased to a certain part of the map, and then totally get away from it just by running through an escape route, but you don't have that option here. You have to try to be more conscious of where you're moving. Well, that's all I have today for Junior Pac-Man for the Atari 2600. Thanks for stopping by to take a look. I'll catch you on another video.